Listeners, in the hustle bustle of modern life and amidst the ceaseless cacophony of notifications and obligations, it's often easy to forget the gentle whispers of nature. Yet, its healing touch remains ever potent, waiting for us to pause, listen, and reconnect. And why shouldn't we picture this? A weary soul finds solace in the embrace of a forest, its lush canopy offering sanctuary from the storms within. And with each breath, tension unravels and tranquility takes hold. Such is the power of nature to heal, to restore, and to guide us back to our true essence. Welcome to another enriching episode of We Are Listening, listeners. And today we delve into the profound art of harnessing nature's bounty to calm the mind, soothe the body, and dissolve the grip of stress. And our guest speaker, Maria Morris, a naturepreneur and founder of Your Own True Nature, joins us on this enlightening journey. And with over 3 decades of experience in occupational therapy and holistic wellness, Maria brings a wealth of wisdom and insight to our conversation. Welcome, Maria.
Hello, welcome. Thank you.
Nature is something that connects us all, and it's something that we all have been evolved from. But
Yes,
we all have sort of, disconnected from nature in today's world. We are just so engrossed in our mobile phones and laptop screens that
yes,
we seldom, even realize that the air we are breathing in, the lush greenery that's surrounding us, how it is impacting our lives. What are your thoughts on this?
absolutely. So I think it's really important to just press the pause button. So the way that I describe it to people is that we're just like our mobile phones. Our batteries need recharging. And as you quite rightly say, nature is deep within our DNA. So, for example, Tony Buzan, who people might know from mind maps, talks about our geniuses. And one of our geniuses is actually our sensual genius. And by sensual, I mean using all of our senses. And of course, we do that when we connect with nature. And the other one is that we are intelligent human beings. And it's important to recognize that we are beings and not human doings. So it's important that we also just be. And Howard Gardner talks about our multiple intelligences. So just as we've got perhaps skills in maths or art or English or whatever, also we've got a naturalistic intelligence. So it's really important that we combine all of that and take a moment to connect with nature, however that might be, regardless of whether you can get outside or inside.
Mhm. That's so true. That's so true. And before we dive further into our question and answers, I would love to know more about you. Like, what instance in your life, made you realize the power of nature and evolve into being an naturepreneur?
Okay, so as a child, like many people, you basically couldn't get me inside. I was always playing outside. I was in a garden, or I'd go to a park, or I'd create dens in nature. I'd climb trees, do all of those things. And then I also started gardening from a young age. So I had my own little vegetable and herb plot from the age of 5. I then designed an alpine garden and part of my parents' garden when I was 12, just from looking at books and being inspired. And then when I went to university, I was always near a river. I was always getting out in nature when I could. And then when I qualified, and then when I was working with many clients, I realized the importance of nature in our well-being and wanted to study that even more. Sadly, I had my own accident at work, so I had to change my career. So I used nature as part of my recovery. And I then wanted to explore more the deeper psychotherapeutic elements of using nature because I found it was working really well with clients and I wanted to know more about why. So I then added to my skill mix. So I learned more about mindfulness, cognitive behavior therapy, neuro linguistic programming. I did future vision training, and I also studied eco or nature therapy with the University of Sussex. So I used all of those tools, not just for myself in my own personal recovery, but when I was changing career, when I later went through a divorce, and now beyond and going forward. So that's really how I've brought all of those skills and tools and the power of nature into what I call an artisan loaf of what I offer now within my own practice, within my own wellness for individuals and the workplace.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And that's, nature does have a healing power. But what could be the starting grounds for, individuals that are so engrossed in modern day technology? What could be the starting points for them to start at least accepting that nature exists? They do accept that, but yes, appreciating those benefits of nature and starting to find more time within the natural landscape around them.
Yes, sure. So, a quick way people think of, oh, I need to have 20 minutes. So, a lot of the tools and information that I give to clients is what can you do in just 1 minute and then build up from there. So, for example, if I asked somebody to just close their eyes for a moment and just visualize their favorite space in nature, I haven't yet met anyone who doesn't actually like nature, even if I've worked with people who are agoraphobic, who don't actually like going outside because of their anxiety. Even they can say, well, I like looking out at the window at a cloud or a tree, or perhaps they've got a childhood memory of somewhere that they enjoyed going on holiday or that they find relaxing. So even just taking that 1 minute just to focus on that is enough. So there has been research to say, for example, that when the heart sees the color green, the heart beat changes and slows down and it responds to that color green. And if you look at the energy centers of the body, if you look at the chakras, then the heart center is actually represented by the color green. So I find it very interesting that that's that connection. So even just 1 minute of thinking about your special space in nature and bringing that to the fore of your mind in between your calls or in between your paragraphs that you're typing or your meetings, take one moment to just be and connect with nature in that way.
Amazing, amazing. And I relate something with your journey as well. As you mentioned that as a child, you were someone who used to be continuously out, playing in the within the nature. And for me also, that's pretty true. I seldom used to be at home when I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
During the weekends, I was always out there playing with my friends. I used to get out probably what 5 a.m. or 5:30 a.m. in the morning and come back by 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. We are just playing around, having a little bit of breakfast around the, park or something like that. And those were some really amazing days, and
Mm,
used to very less times, the frequency of people falling ill at that time
mm,
was pretty less. All of us unintentionally getting into this concrete jungles, just staying stuck within our rooms, has sort of
yes.
given rise to a lot of new ailments, which probably 15 years back we never heard of. It was
Mm-hmm.
very rare to hear cases of mental health ailments, depression, stress,
Mm,
anxiety.
mm,
Once, like probably in some far off circles, you would hear, okay, somebody is going through that and they require some treatment. That was not
mm-hmm.
so prevalent. But today, I move out and I hear even 12-year-old kids saying that I'm using a game to get over my stress. I'm using this game to get over my anxiety. And I was really taken aback. Okay, they have pressure of education, but do they really
Mm.
know what does stress and anxiety really mean?
Yes, and I think I work a lot with, so I've worked a lot with teenagers with exam stress and upwards. So that's really the client group and adults as well that I've worked with. And it's about, that digital detox and giving them tools to connect with themselves and where they are. So nature helps to ground us. So even something as simple, if you're able to tolerate it, as sitting outside barefoot and putting your feet on the ground, whether it's concrete, whether it's grass, whether it's whatever it is you have outside, can help. Simple things such as leaning against a tree. So I have got a majestic tree exercise that I do with people. And when they lean against that tree and I walk them and talk them through that exercise, the reason I called it the majestic tree was after a client who actually called it that. She was Polish and English wasn't her first language. And I took her outside. She hadn't been going outside. She was very anxious. She was very depressed. And I took her to the park and there was a very large tree, and we did some mindful breathing exercises. She leaned against the tree, and it's all about, imagining that you are that tree. So that tree trunk behind your back is like your own spine. We call it our trunk, we
Hmm.
call it our core stability, and it is. And then you can imagine that you're through your feet, that you're sending out roots just like the tree deep into the earth. So again, that will ground you. And they've done studies on the benefits of grounding. And then if you reach up with your arms, just like the branches of the tree, you're expanding your chest and lungs area. You can practice mindful breathing as you're doing it, and breathe out as you're doing it. So breathing in and breathing out really mindfully. And then you can just imagine yourself stretching upwards, being pulled upwards to the light, just like the branches of the tree. And so after we did this exercise, she said, I feel more empowered and I feel as majestic as this tree. Hence, I've renamed the exercise the Majestic Tree.
Wow, that's something really amazing. And you trust me, like today morning, I could not go out for my regular morning walk, and I'm feeling a little bit of lethargic. I'm a bit low on energy today
Yeah,
compared to the days when I'm going at least out for just even 15 minutes. Like I ensure that every morning I go out and at least for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I'm walking, whether it be
yes,
the park near my house or the terrace of my house. Like the
yes,
park and that my house are adjacent to each other. So there's a park
yeah,
just behind my house. So I ensure that, okay, if I'm not able to go out to the park, I go on my terrace, and yeah, there are trees and everything. I get to experience that.
mm-hmm.
But today I could not go, and I'm feeling a little low on energy, and my
Uh-huh.
productivity is down. So I can totally
Right.
relate to that.
So, what I would suggest is everything starts with the breath. And even if you can close your eyes and imagine a space in nature for you, your favorite, space in your park or whatever, or sitting in your garden, or even use all your senses and connect to, if I was to say to you, what's a relaxing space for you? What does that look like? What colors might you see? What might you hear when you're there? What might you smell? People underestimate our power of smell. It's one of our first senses to arrive, and it's one of our last senses to go. So it's really important. So people have very key sense of smell. So it could be freshly mown grass, it could be the scent of a flower, it could be a herbal tea that you like drinking, it could be a favorite food or a fruit or something. Whatever it might be, it's very, very powerful. So if you can use all of your senses when you're trying to bring nature to you, and if it's energy, we can talk about that a bit later, but to energize, think about the bright colors. So the yellows, the oranges, the taste of an orange or a lemon. That's an invigorating scent and taste and smell. And if you think about perhaps the waves of the sea, so again, the natural ions that you get from being out near the sea, or again in the forest, the pine scent has also been shown to be invigorating and beneficial to us. So, or even if you've got an aroma spray of those natural scents that you can spray around you, even when you're online on a meeting. So I suggest having a multi-sensory toolkit with you by your Zoom or your Teams, whatever you're using. And in between calls or meetings, if you're feeling a bit fatigued, you can use that aroma spray, and that will instantly bring nature to you.
Thanks a lot for that advice. And I have seen is, and correct me if I'm wrong in putting this across, but does essential oils and what you just suggested are a way to achieve, experience nature to a certain extent while following the regular corporate lifestyle?
Yes, so a lot of companies are embracing what they call biophilic design.
Mhm.
So it's all about how you bring nature or biophilia into the environment. So I'm also trained in something called ergonomics, where you look at workplace design. So people think, oh, it's just about how you're sitting, how you're working. That's part of it. It's also the culture that you work in, but it's also about the overall environment of where the office space might be, or the workplace. It can be a factory. So, for example, I've worked with companies where people were getting back pain, they were getting headaches, they were getting stressed. and they called me in to ask, what's going on here. So I would look at their physical environment, but also the work culture and so on. And a simple thing, for example, reception area was brilliant orange, which, yes, it can be energizing, but with fluorescent lighting as well, which isn't great, people were getting migraines and headaches. So it was all about what can you do to soften that brilliant orange and maybe still incorporate it if that's your brand color, but maybe not have people looking at it all day long. And how can you soften the lighting? How can you bring some plants in, which not only infuse the air with oxygen, but it also softens it and it brings nature inside? Or encouraging people to take a break, to go out during their lunch break,
Mhm.
even as you say, 6 minutes has been shown to bring health benefits lasting a week. So encouraging people not to be chained to their desk during their lunch break, to actually stand up, have a stretch, have a reminder on screen or something, or a note just to help remind them. So all of those things. And yes, have maybe some ionizers in there. I know companies that have what they call vertical plant walls, where you can have plants that are irrigated hydroponically, and some of those plant walls can have natural birdsong coming out of them. They can also have aroma sprays. You've got to be careful with aromas because they can trigger some people's migraines. But if people have their own individual spray, or an area where they can go to use those sprays, that's fine. So there's all sorts of ways that companies can literally think about us as human beings. Again, the emphasis is on the word beings, not doings, that we are more productive and healthy when we are allowed to be and work at our own pace.
I have seen a lot of companies within the Indian landscape as well in getting vertical walls installed in their offices, and that's sort of drastically changed the overall vibe in that office. If it's the same square yards area and going in two different buildings, the building with that green vertical wall has much more positive and much more salubrious vibe to its essence in comparison to a different building.
They've also done studies, Pulkit, where in hospitals, for example, you'll see more and more, certainly over here, I'm very pleased to say, that in hospitals they have conducted studies and they talk about the fascination of nature, or inspiring images of nature, or the fascination of nature is what boosts our well-being. So they did a study where they put clients and patients post-surgery in a room, and those that either had windows looking outside or those that had nature images in them recovered faster than those that didn't. So you will now find art in hospitals. I'm also an artist. So you will also find art in hospitals and therapeutic settings, whereas it wasn't there as much before. You can even get your favorite photograph on made into like a wall covering. So I was talking about this to a colleague the other day. She's redesigning her office and she was asking me for some design ideas. And I said, well, if you can't get out, then have a wall full of trees, or have a wall full of your favorite space in nature that you can get made into a wall covering. Or you just have some lovely pictures or photographs up that inspire you, so that when you give your eyes a natural break from the screen, optometrists recommend that you have a break from the screen and you actually look far into the distant, as well as just looking down at your keyboard or on screen. So what better way than to bring nature in than having something beautiful to look at?